Hi all, this is sort of a supplementary video to my 2025 animation ranking, just to cap off the year proper. Should be pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going through my top 20 live action films of the year and giving my brief thoughts. As before, this is based on whether a film got a wide release in the US in 2025, with the exception of one film which released in 2025 in the UK only. Although for what it's worth, if I did go purely by UK release dates, Nickel Boys would be at number 1. Good few of these will be films you've likely seen or know about, but I hope there will be at least some recommendations in here that are unfamiliar to you. Without further ado, here's the top 20. Number 20 is The Ugly Stepsister. The new and consistently great wave of body horror led by female voices continues with this frequently painful take on the Cinderella fairy tale, employing a more grounded period look contrasted with a deeply strange electronic score. The costumes and sets are as beautiful as the most memorable scenes are wince-worthy, favouring a slow and controlled build-up leading to a climax with the single most disgusting scene of the year that will test even the most hardened of genre fanatics. Simultaneously worthy of your time and worthy of your vomit. Number 19 is Dead Talent Society. A wonderful comedic spin on supernatural horror following a ghost who must learn to haunt properly or risk fading away, and the incredibly frustrated fellow ghosts who help her on this endeavour in the face of rival haunters. Bursting at the seams with personality and revelling in its absurdity and bonkers energy, almost no other film released in 2025 captured this much pure fun. Shen Bolin as Makoto is an absolute riot. Dead Talent Society revels in being filled to the brim with unhinged silliness, sprinkled with just a dash of warm sentimentality, creating a deliciously sweet piece of chaos. Number 18 is Hallowed Road. The very definition of doing a lot with a little, Hallowed Road is an incredibly immersive real-time thriller following a couple who get an extremely concerned call from their daughter after she's involved in a horrific accident. Crafting a complex and believable portrait of all of its three main characters, elevated by an astonishing turn from Rosamund Pike, Hallowed Road expertly wields the horror of imagination and spins it into a constantly engaging story that I guarantee you will not be able to predict the direction of. The one note is that the villain's dialogue is really bizarre. Number 17 is Black Bag. An incredibly tight thriller that is way better than the trailer suggested it was. This is far and away one of the most purely cool films of 2025, succeeding in its choice to be restrained and heady as opposed to relying on any kind of spectacle. Packed with sharp dialogue and mesmerizing performances, this is one that will keep you glued. Number 16 is The Phoenician Scheme. Wes Anderson once again does what Wes Anderson does best in a film that for me was a return to form after Asteroid City, whose ideas were too big for its boots. Here he combines the quirky caper energy of Grand Budapest Hotel with the sweet human relationships of the Royal Tenenbaums to create a beautiful film which is equal parts funny and touching, unhinged and restrained. Richard Ayoade also fits into this film significantly better than he fits into the Bad Guys universe, to say the least. Number 15 is No Other Choice. Park Chan-wook's ridiculous level of consistency and quality refuses to let up. It took me a couple of watches to really gel with how this one is structured, but I did get there. A grounded and methodical comedic thriller steeped in an extreme confidence in its pace, along with two amazing lead performances. So many astonishing uses of the visual language of the medium, particularly in its use of reflections, and the last act has some of the year's best editing. Number 14 is I Swear. Robert Aramayo gives one of the best performances of the year, portraying the true story of John Davidson, a Scottish man whose life was torn apart by Tourette's syndrome and who found new purpose as a public speaker, raising awareness and creating safe spaces for other people with the condition. Rich with authenticity and deeply inspiring. Number 13 is Companion. The most purely enjoyable cinematic experience I had all year, a film that everyone should go into blind and that almost nobody will be able to because the marketing had other ideas. A feminist film with a rip-roaring popcorn presentation that further establishes Sophie Thatcher as a great emerging scream queen, drawing from flavours of Jordan Peele at his most fun. Almost no other 2025 film will be a crowd pleaser with friends quite like this. Number 12 is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. One of the last true movie stars rounds out arguably his most iconic series with a serious bang. A film with an admittedly very rough start that gets exponentially better across its runtime, to a point where by the end I truly stopped caring about how clunky the first act is. Most people are probably aware of the flaws this entry has, but honestly, what do you expect me to do when watching a man dangling off a biplane in one of the best action scenes in film history? This is the most exhilarating cinematic experience I've had since Mission Impossible Fallout. If only there was a stunts category at the Academy Awards for this to sweep. Number 11 is Wake Up Dead Man. The Knives Out trilogy reaches new, almost parodical heights of sheer convoluted plots, also representing a huge step forward for their visual style. An engrossing mystery with a surprisingly nuanced examination of the spectrum of approaches to religion, and a compelling internal conflict for its new main lead, and one of the most fun films of the year. This series unites cinephiles and general audiences alike in a way few films ever do. Number 10 is Weapons. Zach Cregger's Barbarian was a huge surprise hit with one of the most brilliantly jarring structural choices in recent horror memory. Weapons continues that trend with a surprisingly sprawling Magnolia-inspired narrative that makes it feel epic in scope in a way few horror films ever get to be without sacrificing their bite. One of the most intriguing mysteries of the year and one of the best villains of the year makes this a terrifying treat. Number 9 is Bring Her Back. On the topic of great horror movies, this absolutely miserable experience, filled to the brim with infuriating gaslighting and some genuinely grisly imagery, yet underpinned by a legitimately compelling and engrossing core cast of characters supported by some great performances, is one of the year's biggest bummers. Few films genuinely shock me on an emotional level nowadays, but this really got to me in how unafraid it is to truly go there, and go there in a way which displayed real confidence and real skills in character crafting, a serious step up from Talk to Me. Number 8 is Sinners. Even more great horror movies. Frankly, I'm not sure what you expect me to say about Sinners. It's not the kind of film I ever expect to revisit due to its build-up heavy structure, but there's a reason this is as big of a hit as it is. Such an interesting genre blend with an unbelievably great cast and one of the year's surprisingly many unforgettable dual roles, another of which we'll talk about soon, underpinned by a sense of love and humanity. An art house blockbuster that we honestly just needed. Number 7 is Hamnet. This is one of the films that is technically a 2026 release here, so I heard so much buzz about Jessie Buckley before actually getting to see it, and even then I truly underestimated just how good her performance would be. The way she emotes is genuinely unbelievable, and there is no doubt in my mind that she's taking home the gold. Occasionally this does fall into some of the trappings of films about famous historical figures, however it still really impacted me in the end. I can be a real sucker for films about the power of art, and when they're this emotionally evocative and this gorgeous to look at, it's impossible to take your eyes away from. Number 6 is Marty Supreme. The best film I will never watch again, this essentially turned me into a Chalamet convert when I previously wasn't super on his wavelength outside The French Dispatch. Bursting with gritty energy and the relentless brutality of desperation, and its ending is a strangely refreshing and meaningful one compared to that of Uncut Gems, saying a lot about whether ambitious people truly know what they live for. My one complaint is that Josh Safdie is a piece of shit who keeps hiring other pieces of shit. I've not let that affect where I rank the film itself though. Number 5 is Sentimental Value, the best cast film of the year, which somehow didn't make it into the new best casting category at the Academy Awards despite receiving 4 acting nominations. A slow and tender film about how art is the universal language of emotive expression and what that means for healing fractured connections, in which Reinsford's first scene is somehow more stressful than any part of Marty Supreme. Sentimental Value contains too many moments of truly mesmerizing performances to even count. It also contains what is probably my favorite shot of the year. Number 4 is Twinless. Equal parts hilarious, heartbreaking, and surprising, Twinless is an expertly crafted and stylistically bold genre melange exploring the friendship between two very different kinds of men and their contrasting yet similarly flawed approaches to grief. Dylan O'Brien gives one of the best and most human performances of the year as a man struggling to live after the sudden loss of his twin brother, and director-star James Sweeney matches him with a pitch-perfect response performance. One of the most enjoyable films of 2025, this is not one to miss no matter who you are. Number 3 is Blue Moon. Richard Linklater's latest conversational character portrait opens with 2 quotes that seem totally oxymoronic at first, and by the end comes to make you understand and feel both of them in equal measure. A bottle film with a set of powerhouse performances, witty, tragic, and heartfelt. When the credits rolled, I was frozen in my seat, paralyzed with a unique and incredible bittersweet taste. Number 2 is Happy End. The most criminally underseen film on this list, Neo Sora's powerful debut feature is a scathingly political critique on Japanese xenophobia and authoritarianism, channeled through a relatable and heartfelt coming-of-age lens. Happy End engages with revolution, the contrasting perspectives and approaches, the threat of art to authority, and at its core, what it means to be young and how human evil takes that meaning away. A set of brilliantly nuanced performances from non-actors grounds this near-future dystopia, transporting the viewer into an immersive portrayal of the highs of teenage friendship before slowly crushing those moments of catharsis under the devastating weight of greed and control. And number 1 is One Battle After Another. At the end of the day, I'm no more unique or immune to this than the rest of you. My 4th PTA film, this is the one that finally clicked and made me truly get it. Unbelievably thrilling and somehow keeps up its ridiculous pulse for its entire lengthy runtime despite being technically slower in its plot movement than other films of this flavour, having a masterful command of tone and featuring what is hands down the greatest movie villain in recent memory. This will be viewed as a stone cold classic for generations to come.